Hi everyone, this is Iqbal again here. I just wanted to apologize first because I think the last video was about 1 hour long. I wasn't expecting it's going to be that long, but unfortunately I didn't realize. I think it should have been a short video, but I kind of dragged it to it was about 58 minutes long. But yeah, but this one is going to be a short and sweet video, so I just wanted to highlight a few points which I've made in the last video as well. Whenever we need to work on a consumer unit, we need to make sure the even if you're electrician or DIY, obviously DIY people shouldn't be working on a consumer unit, but as electrician, whenever we work on consumer units, we need to make sure uh, we shouldn't be using these power screwdriver such as impact drivers, and we need to make sure the busbar terminal within the slots in the RCBO MCBs, whatever we're going to be using RCDs, even man switch. So if they miss the terminal, that could cause arcing, and it could lead to the fire as well. I've got some pictures, where I was called to investigate. Luckily, the customer was home, and they smell there's something wrong with the board, and I was called to come on site to have a look. If a customer would have been on holidays, that could have been something. I would say it would have been a disaster. So, but yeah, they were home. They called me, and I went there and I had a look. So I had to call them. Obviously, we had to call a Western Power to isolate the supply to carry out remedial work, replace the consumer unit. Yeah, I'll go through this pictures. Yeah, okay, let's jump into it. Oh, hello everyone. Yeah, this is the consumer unit I was talking about. Yeah, I had a phone call from one of my customers to investigate what's wrong with this consumer unit. I was told this consumer unit, he believes there's something wrong with this consumer unit. He can smell, and it seems when he go, when he goes close to the consumer unit, he can hear the noise there. So it's been arcing. So I can clearly see it's been arcing, and we can see it's clearly melted there. So yeah, you can see the bus bar as well. So when I went on site, obviously to work on this consumer unit, we had to disconnect this consumer unit from the power source and main supply, coming inside the property. So I would advise the customer to get in touch with the Western Power. Obviously, that's where we got a limitation. We can't work on Western Power's pull out. In some circumstances, exceptional circumstances, if we think obviously that it's going to cause a serious damage to the property, then obviously we're probably going to be we're not going to wait for Western Power to come on site, and they would appreciate as well, and we can disconnect the supply. But this is again, it's not something as electrician we are allowed to disconnect, cut out fuse and pull it out, because then the Western Power, which is now called National Grid, they're not going to be happy for us to pull out their fuse without their permissions. If we can assess, if they're going to be coming within an hour, within a couple of hours, and your consumer unit supply is off, the man switch is off, and it's not causing any more damage. Yeah, in those circumstances, it's always best to call up your network distributor. So that could be a Western Power, National Grid. It depends where you live, which part of country you live. So where I live, as I said, it's a National Grid. So they came on site and they pulled the fuse out and they left it disconnected. I managed to install a double pole isolator for me to, if they can in the future, if there needs to be anything needs to be done on a consumer unit, if there's anything needs to be replaced, MCB, one of these MCBs or RCBOs, if consumer unit need to be whole, consumer unit need to be replaced, then it's more convenient for me to just switch off the isolator and pull the meter tails out and replace the consumer unit. Yeah, well, yeah, you can clearly see here there is a, this is, I believe this is MEM make, but we do find a couple of these MCBs and these RCBOs. They're the different make. They don't belong to this consumer unit. So I think electrician, DIY person, whoever worked on this consumer unit, they didn't have same make MCBs. This is why they stick these in, these two in. But you gotta be very careful when you are working on a consumer unit. I'm talking about electricians. I wouldn't trust any DIY to work on a consumer unit. Yeah, if it's electricians, you need to make sure you need to have a SAM make. If it's MEM board, consumer unit, so you need to have MEM, MCBs, and RCBOs, and they should be in line at the bottom there. If they're not in line, this is where you're going to see. So you miss the terminal, and this is not going to be inside. Obviously, this is not inside the terminal in this case, and it's been arcing, and this arc obviously led to this RCBO, damage this RCBO and this one as well. So it would have been a disaster if customer would have been on holidays. Luckily, customer was home, and they realized there's something wrong with the consumer unit, and they called me, and I went on site and I had a look, and I called the National Grid, and they turned up straight away and disconnected the supply. But yeah, this can be sometimes can be problematic. So it depends. This is again, it's a plastic board. It wasn't a metal board. If it's mounted on combustible material, that could be sometime. I've seen one of the video on a TikTok. Somebody's replacing a consumer unit. They cut the plasterboard, and this consumer unit, the metal consumer unit, they fixed it inside the wall. So the sum of the part is the consumer unit inside the wall, and we can clearly the knockout at the back, they've been taken out, and you can see thermal insulation there at the back. In those circumstances, if this board would have been there, this could have been a disaster. A house can catch a fire. This arc can lead to the thermal insulation catching fire, and you can find yourself in a situation where you obviously it's going to be too late. Let me show you on the next picture here. You can see here what's happened here. Okay, this bus bar, you can see these bus bar, this terminal, this should have been inside this metal clamp. That's what I call. So that should have been in there. So then the screws on top there, obviously that would have been screwed in there, but that didn't happen. So when they replaced MCBs, they probably took this bus bar out, and they just stick the new MCBs or the RCB or whatever they did on this consumer unit. So when they try to put this bus bar back in, they probably struggled. They just didn't notice, they were not careful, or they probably didn't know this is what could be a problem later on. So they just put a bus bar and they missed this terminal, and this one as well. You can clearly see here, this was a man switch, and a lot of load was on a man switch. This is why it started arcing, and it's been arcing, and this is where it caused damage here. This is not the first house. Obviously, there's been a few other property where I been, obviously I've found the same problem there. There could be any other reason as well. Sometime, as this case, most of the time I found this is the case where they missed this terminal, not this. It could be MCB if there's RCD and it's not within the slot like this. It should have been here. This bus bar should have been here, but yeah, and it started arcing, and obviously I had to go there to investigate. But yeah, this is sometime Some electrician DIY, but electrician and DIY people, they tend to use power screwdriver. If it's a torque screwdriver, if it's a set to the right torque, that's fine. But if you're going to be using a normal impact screwdriver to normally be used to screw in the timber and the plywood, obviously that's going to damage the thread, and that's going to be another cause. If you're still within the terminal, you probably have this loose screw there, and your bus bar is loose, and that could lead to the fire arcing. Yeah, same thing can happen with your meter trails. Whenever you're working on a meter trail, don't rush. Just make sure this screw, yeah, it needs to be on. Obviously, it needs to be on top of the copper part of the meter tails. I know there is a. We always make sure the copper part shouldn't be showing up here. It needs to be right inside. But that doesn't mean you're going to be pushing all this cable all the way down, and this screw is, it should be on copper part, and it's on top of your insulated part of your meter trail, and then the copper is under there is loose. That could again lead to arc. I did have a situation where I went there. Obviously, it's stuck there. You can't really tell what happened, but I can see, this is something could cause problem. Yeah. It get jammed, so you can't sometimes you have to break this man switch to take the meter tails out. But again, the care must be taken, so don't call any DIY person. Just always rely on somebody who knows what is doing, so you can end up having this sort of problem. You have got a kitchen fitter. They are, some of them, they are qualified, Part B qualified. That doesn't mean you allow them to, install these MCBs, and you later on you find a problem with your consumer unit. In this scenario, it might have been okay initially when they worked on this consumer unit, when they installed these two MCB. That's where they missed this terminal, and they left the customer in a dangerous situation. Just always make sure whenever you work on a consumer unit, if you are an electrician, always check these bus bars. They are within the terminal. Some electricians, they tend to use their continuity meter, voltage meter, just to see if this is continue. It does give a continue sometime if it's missing terminal, but it doesn't confirm if it's a loose in there or not. So this is why you need to make sure you need to have some sort of. I've got some mirror type, where I can put it under there to see the terminal, these bus bars terminal inside the right terminal in there. But you can see sometimes this consumer unit not in an ideal location or height where you can easily see these bus bar within the right terminal. But in those circumstances, you're probably going to have to be very careful. You have to use something under there, whether you want to use the camera, mobile camera, or anything, and make sure you don't find yourself in this situation. If that's because this is incoming supply side, and if would have been a problem with the socket and switches, that's another side. These MCB can trigger, and they will disconnect the supply to the circuit, final circuit. But in this situation, obviously, this incoming supply side, there isn't any protection where there can be anything will prevent this arcing, and this is where you will find yourself in a situation where you think, okay, well, I've done everything right, but no, you haven't. You need to make sure, you need to concentrate, you need to make sure whenever you're working on consumer unit, you need to make sure these bus bar, they within the right terminal, and they are where they should have been, and they're not loose. All right, that's it today. Thank you very much. Thanks.